there's still a little bit more that we need to go over with the fallout and kind of what the expectations might be for the summer from Regi's statement here. So I think it's time to talk some TSM. That's right. Welcome back, everybody, to Talking TSM. I know the last episode was really long. This one will be probably about half the length, I think, maybe a third. There was just a lot to go over, and I will continue to dive more into expectations for the summer and everything else, but I felt like it was important to specifically follow up on a point that I was making about, you know, veterans and the expectations and building of this team. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, why are you continuing to do this? It's off season. I think it's important to discuss these things. So as a reminder, here's what Regi said. You can go back to the last episode if you really want more in-depth look at what he's talking about. But essentially, in case if you missed it and you don't feel like going back, money is tight because of the economy and I'm sure the FTX deal falling through from what they had expected it to be. They are in the process of figuring some things out. He's going to be more hands-on. Expect something to happen in the next, 4 to 5 months. Blah, blah, blah. He feels like the changes aren't going to have that big of an effect. And he's probably not entirely wrong on that. But there's another part of this that I think is interesting is that Hanser did an interview with Travis Gafford, which I would highly suggest that you go and watch this full video. But like commenter Loop, I don't know, stated about a week ago, they're glad that Hanser's back, and he mentions that they are likely running it back with this roster in the summer, so we get to see more of him and other people in the LCS, and they're hoping for better results in the summer split. Here's what I will say on that initially is things can change. It seems like even from the time of this interview to like a day or two later, things did change for TSM, and they will change. We have a break until June. I believe it's June. I'm pretty sure it's June. Where, we're going to have 3 months off, basically, to kind of sit here and wallow and figure out what we're going to do, pick up the pieces, right? And one of the points that I made was that I am not satisfied with average. Okay? When I look at a team, right? Sure, like this team, what it sounds like it's going to be is Hanser, Boogie, maybe Svenskeren, Maple, Wild Turtle, and Chime. That is a team that is, I guess, interesting at least, but like, what is their ceiling, right? And what is their floor? And when I'm looking at a team, that is what I base a lot of things on. I got ripped a couple years ago for doing my power rankings for the season and my, belief in where teams would finish, essentially, based on that concept of a ceiling and of a floor, right? Where does this team kind of line up, right? And for me, when I'm looking at building a team, I want the highest ceiling possible, all right? And that may sacrifice the floor, right? Meaning like where they're going to be, like in terms of relative strength of the team, their potential, right? Because when we're looking at the summer, we are looking at potential, right? We're not looking at reality right now because we haven't seen them play and we haven't seen the other moves or the other things that the other teams have done. I think sometimes people tunnel too much on their team and sorry. And they're like, yeah, I expect my team to, to do this, and this. But if we don't expect things like 100 Thieves to get better, Team Liquid to get better, even Dignitas and Immortals to get better, right? The two worst teams in the league this last split, then I think you're crazy. So if we stay the same with the same roster, with everything essentially being the same, except for Hanser coming in for solo, which is possibly an upgrade, but I'm not really sure about that yet. our floor and our ceiling will change not based on what we have done, but what everybody else has done, because we're not the only team in this league, obviously. Obviously, some teams could get worse too, but generally speaking, that doesn't happen very often for the summer. Most of the time, teams get better from spring to summer. That's just seemingly how it works in the LCS. And it makes sense, right? Like, you're able to add pieces, you're able to have seen games against the other teams who are not likely to make, a full 5-man change, which is something that I kind of am suggesting that maybe TSM look into, to be honest with you, because our ceiling was 8 wins, maybe 9, right? Like, there were some games that maybe we could have lost but figured out a way to win, and there were certainly some games that we threw, right? So I think somewhere between 7 and 9, maybe 10 wins was enough. Now, 10 wins gets you to 4th place in the LCS this last split, and that's fine. That's great, right? Like, while there is a chance now that when you make the playoffs that you can go a little bit further into them, when I stack up our roster against Evil Geniuses, Cloud9, FlyQuest, maybe even CLG, Golden Guardians right now, right? I should take CLG out. Golden Guardians who have made it to the next round. I don't see us in a best of 5 series or even a best of 3 series being better than those teams with this current roster. And when Regi says that he's going to put less resources into the team, right? Sure, it may you could go one of 2 ways. You can go the veteran route, or you can go the young guy route, who you're going to give some people a chance. The less experienced route, we'll say. The veteran route is safe because your floor and your ceiling are going to be relatively known, right? We are not likely to finish lower than, we'll say, 6 wins next split, which should theoretically, depending on the parity of the league, get us to a position where we will be 8th and higher, which would get us into the summer playoffs and probably get us knocked out in the 1st or 2nd round. 2nd round being maybe the ceiling, right? The ceiling for this team is probably 8 to 10 wins maybe, which would get us, again, depending on the parity of the league, at best maybe 4th or 5th place. That is a very wide range, and I understand that. Probably, again, it really just depends on the rest of the league, but I would say our more likely spot is about where we finished this split. I would say somewhere between 6th and 8th, I think is our more realistic range. And for some people, that's fine, because that's a little bit below average, but with a squad like this and not a lot of money, then great, right? Yeah, that's fantastic. We're exceeding expectations because everybody expected us to be 9th or 10th. Those expectations have been raised. They are no longer going to be 9th or 10th. They'll probably have us right around 6th or 7th going into the split, depending on the moves that the rest of the LCS do. And when you decide that you're going to stick with this roster, you are kind of, boxing yourself in for what the expectations are and how the rest of the summer split will go. Now, it will add, a sense of, just having more time together to build up the relationships that you need, to feel more comfortable with things, to, be able to take out the communication issues, which is not in terms of speaking different languages, but just the general understanding of how the game is played together. The longer that you keep teams together, CLG, I think, are a prime example of this, although I think they may make some changes before the summer split. And then Old 100 Thieves as well, where what you're going to get out of them most likely, right? They're going to win some big games. Yeah, they know how to play together. We saw the pinnacle of that 100 Thieves roster, right? They were always right there. They won 1 championship, but they couldn't figure it out on the world stage, right? They were finishing 1st and 2nd, great, but did this team have the firepower to go to that next level at Worlds? No, they didn't, but you knew what they were, right? With us, I feel like you know what we are, right? Our potential is at best 4th, but more likely 6th, right? Our lowest expectation is probably 8th, hopefully no lower than that. That floor and that ceiling shrink. Why I like to go with, we'll call them prospects, younger, less experienced players, is they have yet to show, especially ones that are good, by the way. Like, we're not just going to grab some random 18-year-old that's garbage. Like, that's not what I'm saying. There are a lot of players, especially in North America and realistically around the world, that sometimes they just need to be given a chance, right? And they may exceed your expectations. By doing that, by grabbing more of an unknown, sure, the floor may be worse. You may finish that 9th or 10th spot. And that's quite the gut punch, especially in a summer split. But, like, maybe they come on and they can push you to, I don't know, a ceiling of 2nd or 3rd in their first split. And then you realize, hey, maybe their potential is better than that with other pieces that can be added in. And voila, you have a team that's competing for a championship again. My ceiling, personally, is 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. That's what I want for our team. And while this team's ceiling is theoretically just below that, I don't ever see their ceiling getting to 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, to being in a finals again. I would love to go to a finals where TSM, I'd like to work a finals where TSM have a chance of actually being there on the last day. This TSM squad isn't going to do that. They even said it themselves. When your own coaching staff and your own players are saying, hey, yeah, it would be really great if we could finish 4th, that's not the mindset that you want. That is not what's going to allow you to be great, right? That allows you to be good at best. And the way that Regi has set things up is they're not going to invest a lot of money into the LCS. Fine, right? They're able to get these veterans on very low contracts, I'm sure, just because they want to keep playing. Great for them. I love seeing them. Hanser is one of my favorite players of all time. I will never ever forget his headband. I always just for some reason thought, what a very interesting and cool aesthetic that this guy has, this character trait. For some reason that this style is was just new. It was different. It was cool. I loved it. And I'm going to be excited to watch him play. I'm going to be excited to probably watch Fenskaren, play, to watch Wild Turtle play. I love Maple and Chime, as you guys know. I will enjoy watching that team. But ultimately, I will know that that team does not have a chance to win a championship outside of catastrophe for a lot of other teams. Implosions, maybe sicknesses, I don't know, things that I wouldn't wish on them that may just end up happening, right? That's the only way that this team makes it to a finals weekend, in my mind, outside of them just playing at their peaks again for the probably last time of their careers. And it's sad. I don't like saying that. I don't like looking at it that way. But I don't want to just exceed expectations. I want to establish the ability for this team to fight for a championship every single split. And when you have the mentality of just bringing in a bunch of veterans who have pretty known abilities at this point, you're not going to do that. So instead, I propose that with the less income, the less money, that TSM instead grab people that you could go look on Oracle's Elixir or any, stats site that has statistics for, challenger level players, for, academy level players and other, leagues, and try to grab the best players that you can from there who may not be necessarily getting offers from some of the big clubs, people who are getting overlooked, right? Because maybe they didn't succeed as well in their first split, but they're still only 20 years old. Philip is who I'm referring to, by the way, on FlyQuest, and he's clearly not going to play for them, right? You go out and you get somebody like him. Is he the most exciting player? Maybe. We haven't really seen a full split of Philip. And if we judge people just based off of their first splits, well, then we would have never really liked Spica and seen him win an MVP and be in contention for his second one on a different team. Right? You have to give players time to develop. And the potential for somebody like Philip, who is 20, compared to Hanser, who is in his late 20s, right? There's a difference there. Sure, Philip could be worse than Hanser. There's no doubt about it, right? But he also could be better. And I would rather take a risk on the unknown. And I'm just giving Philip as an example. There are plenty of other players who in the top lane who I think we could take a look at as well. I was just looking at it, before hopping on and doing this show, this episode. But there are young players who are just looking for a chance, right? Bradley is another example. I don't know that Summit's going to get pushed out right now. And Bradley may be tired of waiting, where they have now pushed him out basically twice from an opportunity. If you go out and you went and got Bradley and said, hey, Bradley, would you like to go play on the TSM LCS team instead of on the Team Liquid Academy team? And here are some other interesting players that you could play with. Here's a new young jungler. I don't know, whoever you would want to grab, right? Whoever you could grab. Maybe they go out and get Will. I know Will is technically taking a break, but hey, you convince Will, hey, we'll give you the LCS spot. You give me Bradley, you give me Will. You can keep Maple, right? You can keep Chime, and maybe you even keep Wild Turtle. I don't know. But you grab 2 new younger players and you give them an opportunity, right? We've seen it. Even this split. Look at how great Wild Turtle played when coming back. Just being given the opportunity after he didn't look like anything in Academy. All the Academy casters. Yeah, he wasn't really doing anything for us. But man, he loves being on this LCS stage, right? It means something to these players. They will play harder, right? And sure, like I said, I'm sure I'm contradicting my own point to you. Like, Hanser could play better. He may, with more time. But that ceiling is not going to get much higher than fourth, I think. I think fourth is their ceiling, if I'm looking at it, realistically. Fourth just isn't good enough for me. I want a challenge for championships, okay? And the way you build that is you build a good system of players who will be constantly pushing each other to be the best, right? Once you establish who those players are going to be at the top level, then at a minimum, our academy team needs to be full of young talent ready to push these guys out of their place. That's how you create a successful team. That's how you create what Cloud9 has had for years. For years, right? Svenskeren got pushed out by Blabber because guess what? Blabber was really freaking good, and Blabber may end up being the best jungler in LCS history. I would make that argument already. Guys, this is, if Regi is not going to allocate this team money, then it's better for us to try to go young, have a high ceiling, exceed expectations in that way, and show Regi, hey, you know what, man? Look at all the money you can make. Look at how the next generation of players can really push this team to the next level. Again, I'm very excited to watch Hanser and Wild Turtle and Chime and Maple and either Boogie or Svenskeren. If that's going to be the way it's going to go, at least that's the way Hanser has heard / believed it is going to go. And, good on them. I will cheer that team on. I will be making episodes on this. But if I'm going to tell you that I'm excited about a team whose ceiling is not even making it to finals weekend in Newark, where I am planning on being, I'm not excited for that. I'm disappointed by that. And I hope they prove me wrong, and I will gladly make an apology video for that, but I just don't anticipate that being the case. So, I don't know. You guys let me know in the comment section below. I'm sure if you've made it again to this point, I tried to make it a little bit shorter. It's going to be about 20 minutes instead of 30 minutes, but I'm passionate about this team. I'm passionate about this organization, and if times are going to be lean, you're not going to be able to go out and buy premium talent, so you can either build it or you can kind of just putz around in the middle of, the LCS and just try to keep your head above water, I guess, instead of just, potentially going for the gusto and making a ballsy move. I don't know. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. I know a lot of you, especially in the Talking TSM Discord, feel differently. You enjoy seeing these veterans and you think, hey, you know what? At least we're making playoffs. That's great. I have full respect for your opinions on it, but I also respectfully disagree. So I don't know. Let's talk more about it in the comment section below. But with that, I'll catch you guys on the next one.